Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Rukmini Dwarkadish Rukmini Dwarkadish Rukmini Dwarkadish Rukmini Dwarkadish Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo, Dayom Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Paravrajak, Acharya, Asatara, Sacha Sri Shrimad, ISKCON BBT Founder, Acharya Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Prabhupada, Om Vishnupad, Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda, Ki Jai. Nam Acharya, Srila Haridas Thakur, Ki Jai. Prem Sakahosh, Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu, Nityananda, Shadvaita, Gadadhara, Shivasani, Gaur Bhaktivedanta, Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopana Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Brajamubhidam Madam Ki Jai Shri Namadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Shri Lachal Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai The most beautiful Lordship Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish Ki Jai Shri Rukmini Dwarkanath Ki Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Going back to home, back to Godhead, Ki Jai. ISKCON Los Angeles Yatra, Ki Jai. Brihad Mridanga Transcendental Book Distribution, Ki Jai. International Food for Life Transcendental Prasadam Distribution, Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan, Ki Jai. Nittai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to the Prabhupada. So please forgive the unconventional way of sitting, just in time for my trip to New York. This knee is doubled in size, so I can't sit normally. Narayanam namaskritya, naram chaiva narottamam, deving saraswatim vyasam, tato jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada, who's a translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke Bhaktir Bhavatim Naisiki. By regularly attending the Srimad Bhagavatam class and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, whose worship with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing our reading from the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 29. Today's text should be 32. Artha-jñāt saṁśaya-cchettā tataḥ śreyān sva-karma-kṛt mukta-saṅgas bhūyān adogdhā dharmam ātmanaḥ artha-jñāt saṁśaya-cchettā tataḥ śreyān sva-karma-kṛt mukta-saṅgas bhūyān adogdhā dharmam ātmanaḥ artha-jñāt saṁśaya-cchettā tataḥ śreyān sva-karma-kṛt mukta-saṅgas bhūyān adogdhā dharmam ātmanaḥ. Please chant. Okay, it seems like the men don't want to chant today. Vaishnavis. Artha-jñāt saṁśaya-cchettā tataḥ śreyān sva-karma-kṛt mukta-saṅgas bhūyān adogdhā dharmam ātmanaḥ. Anybody else? No? Okay. Synonyms. Artha-jñāt. Then one who knows the purpose of the Vedas. Saṁśaya, doubts. Chettā, one who cuts off. Tataḥ, then him. Śreyān, better. Sva-karma, his prescribed duties. Kṛt, one who executes. Mukta-saṅgaḥ, liberated from material association. Tataḥ, then him. Bhūyān, better. Adogdhā, not executing. Dharmam, devotional service. ātmanaḥ, for himself. Srila Prabhupada's translation for this verse. Better than the brahmana who knows the purpose of the Vedas is he who can dissipate all doubts. And better than him is one who strictly follows the brahminical principles. Better than him is one who is liberated from all material contamination. And better than him is a pure devotee who executes devotional service without expectation of reward. Please repeat. Better than the brahmana who knows the purpose of the Vedas is he who can dissipate all doubts. And better than him is one who strictly follows the brahminical principles. Better than him is one who is liberated from all material contamination. And better than him is a pure devotee who executes devotional service without expectation of reward. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Artha-jñāt brāhmana refers to one who has made a thorough analytical study of the absolute truth and who knows that the absolute truth is realized in three different phases, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. If someone not only has this knowledge but is able to clear all doubts if questioned about the absolute truth, he is considered better. Further, there may be a learned Brahmana Vaishnava who can explain clearly and eradicate all doubts, but if he does not follow the Vaishnava principles, then he is not situated on a higher level. One must be able to clear all doubts and simultaneously be situated in the brahminical characteristics. Such a person who knows the purpose of the Vedic injunctions, who can employ the principles laid down in the Vedic literatures, and who teaches his disciples in that way is called an acharya. The position of an acharya is that he executes devotional service with no desire for elevation to a higher position of life. The highest perfection of Brahmana is the Vaishnava. A Vaishnava who knows the science of the absolute truth but is not able to preach such knowledge to others is described as being in the lower stage. One who not only understands the principles of the science of God but can also preach is in the second stage, and one who not only can preach but who also sees everything in the absolute truth, and the absolute truth in everything is in the highest class of Vaishnavas. It is mentioned here that a Vaishnava is already a Brahmana. In fact, the highest stage of brahminical perfection is reached when one becomes a Vaishnava. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadishtarine Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Snapitang Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyahang Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Purjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Mosate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuve Evacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So supposedly we're living in the information age, as if there was no information prior to this age. I mean, in every age there is information. And so much so that when they rediscover information that was there thousands of years ago, they're shocked. For instance, the information that was available to build, I came from an engineering background, to build some of these giant monolithic structures that you find around the world. They still can't figure out, how did they get such huge blocks of granite up to the top of a pyramid, something that weighs 100 tons and stuff like that. So, yeah, we're living in the information age, but we're also living in the age of misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation, generally most people are misinformed about what is the goal of life and how to achieve it. Where did human beings come from? They're misinformed, and they readily and heartily pass on that misinformation to their offspring and others in the name of teaching, Big Bang and stuff like that. It's all just misinformation. And then there's deliberate disinformation. where somebody, because they don't know it's not true, those are spreading misinformation. They don't necessarily know it's not true. They accept it as truth, and they can't prove it one way or the other, and they pass it on. That's misinformation. But then there's disinformation, where when somebody deliberately, they know that what they're telling you is not true, but they want you to think in a certain way or act in a certain way, so they give you this disinformation to mess you up so you will do things that you wouldn't have done if you knew that it was disinformation. So we're very fortunate that we've come across real information, absolute truth. We don't have to, yes, we may not be able to prove it. If somebody even asks you, we're hearing from Kapila here. If somebody asks you, can you prove that there was really a Kapila, so many hundreds of thousands of years ago that as you say, no, you can't prove it. But we accept it on the strength of the person that we're hearing it from. Because we accept Srila Prabhupada as being a perfect conduit for spiritual knowledge, then we present it as such. And yes, we may not be able to prove it beyond the shadow of a doubt to anyone, but the more that we follow this devotional lifestyle, the more we will become solidly attached to hearing and spreading what we've heard. And the more you do that, the more realization sets in, and so you preach with more conviction. But even before we get to that stage, there are things that we can observe so that when we repeat them, just like it's being mentioned here, about what are the qualities of a brahmana. So we can observe that, whether somebody's truthful, clean, has faith in the scriptures, all these things can be observed. It's not that you have to take it on somebody's word that they're a brahmana. You can observe, are they clean? If somebody's dirty, then they're not a brahmana. No matter how much, they say that, well, I'm born in a brahminical family. If you're dirty, sir or madam, you're not a brahmana. If you're untruthful, then you're not a brahmana. So these things can be observed. So certain things in the Shastra we hear and we can observe them. Other things we may not be able to observe. We've heard earlier in this canto about Kardama Muni and Devahuti traveling all over the universe in an aerial mansion. We never saw it, and we can't produce one ourselves. We can't prove that it actually happened. But we accept it based on, again, who we're hearing it from. So this is real information. So Kapila Dev here is giving real information about the hierarchy of personalities on the spiritual path. Now, one may wonder, aren't all souls equal? Yes, ontologically, yes. Every single soul is exactly the same as any other soul. It's not that there's eternally a class of higher souls and middle souls and lower souls. No. Every single anksha, part and parcel of Krishna, is exactly the same. But when we are incarcerated in this material world, we don't display the same characteristics. It's dependent on the particular mixture of modes of nature that you're under. So we can't claim that somebody, just like in education, you can't claim that somebody who's just learned their ABCs is on the same level as a PhD. It's just foolish to say that. So in this material world, there are gradations. And this is what people can't understand about what they call the caste system. It's not. It's a natural system based on the modes of nature that you're in. So somebody who's mostly or purely in the mode of goodness, they're going to have certain characteristics and certain abilities that somebody who's in the mode of ignorance doesn't have. Even though ontologically, the soul is the same. Whether the soul is in an ant's body or a bird's body or a brahmana's body or a shudra's body, ontologically same. But the abilities and the characteristics that are exhibited are dependent on the particular mixture of modes of nature that we're under. So somebody who's mostly in the mode of goodness is born with brahminical tendencies or can be trained easily. Somebody who's in the mode of passion has strong administrative tendencies, martial tendencies, or they can be trained that way. Somebody who is mixed passion and ignorance, they can be trained in the mercantile field, and somebody who's mostly or completely in the mode of ignorance can be trained to assist the others in their activities. That's just natural. Krishna says, I have created these gradations. And furthermore, he says, all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are created by me. So Krishna is the architect behind all of this. Does that mean that Krishna is to be blamed? No. No, because wherever we are situated, we should want to know what is the ultimate that I can achieve and how to do that. And this is what's missing from modern society. Nowadays, everybody's misinformed to think that economic development is the highest platform. That's the highest thing you can do with your life, is earn a lot. That's the general mass of people are informed like that. So you go to school, you struggle for 4 years or 6 years or 8 years or 12 years, depending on which field you're in. And then when you come out, you're supposed to earn a lot of money. And what do you do with that money? You eat a little better than other people, you sleep a little better. You know, there are houses here in the LA area that sell for $100 million. Is it really worth it? Even if it's 10,000 square feet? Is it really worth $100 million to live with just a roof over your head and a little bigger swimming pool than everybody else? But people are misinformed that way, that if I can achieve that level, I can buy a $100 million house, then I've arrived. I'm somebody. No. So Lord Kapila Deva is reminding us, no, that's not what makes you somebody. If you have the brahminical tendencies and you're trained in the Vedas, then you're on a pretty high level. Beyond that, as stated today, if you can clear doubts from others, in other words, preach to people so that they come to the brahminical platform at least, and ultimately to the Vaishnava platform, then you're better than somebody who just, yesterday Brigapati asked, why would somebody learn the Vedas? Why would somebody learn Bhagavad Gita if they're not a devotee? Why? Name, fame, profit, adoration, distinction. Or to deliberately present misinformation, just like the Mayavadis. They read Bhagavad Gita, they study it and know it. But their aim is to tell you that you don't have to surrender to Krishna, you surrender to the unborn, eternal, within Krishna. Prabhupada said, what is this nonsense? There's no difference between Krishna's inside and outside. So yeah, somebody will study the Vedas. Ravana knew the Vedas. They know the Vedas, these demons, so they can use it for their own purposes. Hiranyakashipu, he was preaching after Hiranyaksha was killed by Lord Varaha, he was preaching to his relatives Vedic knowledge. Oh, the soul is eternal, don't grieve, etc., etc. But then in the next breath, he wants to kill Vishnu because Vishnu killed my brother. So what did he actually know? If he knew that the individual soul couldn't be killed, then how can you kill the supreme soul, Vishnu? So they know, but they don't know, because they're asuri, Baba. Their knowledge is covered. Real intelligence is covered. So better than the brahmana is one who knows and can clear doubts from others, and even better than that, as Kapila Deva was saying today, is a Vaishnava, somebody who attains the platform of practicing devotional service with no expectation of higher situation, being situated on a higher platform. And we see from our Srila Prabhupada, he gave up his comfortable position in Vrindavan, came to New York, and he said, I was prepared to eat just potatoes and cereal, because he didn't know if he could find, nice vegetables to cook and stuff like that. He was prepared. He brought a bag of cereal, and he knew that at least these Westerners, they have potatoes. So he was ready to live on potatoes, on cereal. He was not that because I'm a preacher or a Christian, you have to give me this and give me that. No, that's not a preacher's mentality. That's not a Vaishnava's mentality. Whatever situation Krishna has put me in, I will use that situation for Krishna's pleasure. And what pleases Krishna the most, what pleases Guru the most, is sharing this Vedic knowledge with others. So we have our life's work given to us by Srila Prabhupada. Produce the books, read the books, live the books, distribute the books. And then everything will come from that. Prabhupada said, you don't have to try extraneously for anything else. Everything you need will be provided by Krishna. Because Prabhupada said in one class, he said, Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He says everything emanates from me, everything belongs to me. So why would he not take care of his devotees? Why would the devotee ever have to worry? No, if we actually surrender to Krishna and serve Krishna, then everything will be provided by Krishna, everything that we need. So Lord Kapila Deva in this section, he's also stressing very much seeing everybody equally and seeing him, the Supreme Lord, in everybody. So Krishna also says that in the Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter. Actually, the section that Savas was reading this morning was so instructive. In one purport, Prabhupada was quoting so many verses, 7th chapter of Gita, 6th chapter, 10th chapter. So that's also instructive to us. Don't just speak. Always be ready to support whatever you say by reference to Shastras, particularly Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the basis of all of our philosophical understanding. So Prabhupada quoted so many, that one purport, right? If I remember correctly, 10:8 and 6:34, just a whole bunch of verses Prabhupada is quoting. So in the 6th chapter, Krishna says that, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So this is very important. Krishna himself is saying that in the Gita, and Kapila Deva is reiterating and really pushing this concept, because you can't really go out and preach if you don't see everybody equally. If you're not that you don't see distinctions, and Prabhupada in that purport, that's 630, Prabhupada says in that purport that the pure devotee, yes, he sees the material differences, but actually understands that everything is coming from Krishna, Krishna's in everything, and therefore the devotee's not bewildered. We're not bewildered. I know the few times that I've gone out to distribute books, it can become a little intimidating to approach people, and especially when you don't do it every day like Rigapati. So I always remind myself, this person that I'm approaching, Krishna knows this person better than he knows or she knows himself. Krishna knows everything, past, present, and future about this person. So if I am representing Krishna and I'm taking shelter of Krishna, then Krishna will give me the right words to say to, at least get this person to consider taking the boat. And in this way, if we try to see everybody as part and parcel of Krishna, which Krishna says himself, everybody's eternally part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna says they belong to me. 4th chapter. What will you learn if you approach a spiritual master? You'll learn that all living beings are mine. They're in me and they are mine. They belong to me. So we approach each other, we approach anyone as property of Krishna. And as I've said many times, our tendency is to treat other people's property better than we treat our own. We may be a little neglectful of our own car, but if somebody lends you a car, just like I sold my car in preparation to go to New York, and Arcita Prabhu very kindly, I didn't ask him, he just said, you need a car until you leave, so he loaned me one of his cars. I take care of it better than I do my own car. That's just a natural tendency. You want to take care of somebody else's property better than you take care of your own property. So if we see everybody as belonging to Krishna, then we try to have at least the right outlook and approach them in that mood. And Prabhupada stressed many times, and Krishna says, Suryaram Sarvabhutana, I am the best friend of all living entities. So if the master, Krishna, is friendly to everybody, how can the servant not be friendly? So if we actually see ourselves as servants of Krishna, we have to be friendly to everybody. Doesn't mean you're going to get reciprocation, and that's why you have to be tolerant, you have to be humble, because you may not get the reciprocation that you want when you approach somebody to give them Krishna consciousness, or give them anything, or just, hi, how are you? And they want to. I remember one day I was outside the temple here, and this is why I always tell devotees, when you have conversations, don't stay on the sidewalk. Go this side or that side. The one old man who lives in the community, somewhere in this area, he was coming down the sidewalk. He just crossed the alleyway there, and some devotee was standing and said, "You Hare Krishna people, you're always in the way." He was just yelling and screaming. So some people just, because they have demonic tendencies, they just naturally hate devotees, and don't give them any opportunity to hate you more. So don't block the sidewalk. Let them pass freely. It's American right. In other countries, they're not so. They don't care. They walk around you. But Americans think, I have a right to walk down the sidewalk. If you block me, I'm going to fight you like that. So we have to be friendly. Lord Kapila Deva is stressing that here. And how are you going to be friendly? To see Krishna everywhere, and to see Krishna in everything and everyone. And therefore, even inanimate objects, like Prabhupada said once, you think you're sitting on the floor, but I know I'm sitting on Krishna. So even something inanimate like the floor, or to speak of the actual paraphernalia that's used in the deity worship, we should see this is Krishna's property and treat it accordingly. But it's especially important when we're dealing with devotees, because mistakes made in associating with devotees can come back in a very, very bad way. In other words, there are repercussions. The devotee himself or herself may not take umbrage, may not take offense, but if we offend devotees, Krishna takes it seriously. And therefore Prabhupada recommended, I was discussing with Brigapati just recently, Prabhupada recommended that before you go to sleep at night, review the entire day's activities. What have I done today? Who have I interacted with? And if you honestly, if you're honest with yourself, you will know, okay, maybe I was rough unnecessarily with this person, or I was a little harsh with that person. Next day, go and apologize. Because if you don't, the person may not react immediately, but they remember. And one of the reasons why we've had so much difficulty in ISKCON is because devotees, some devotees at least, they hold on to grudges from 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when they were in the ashram. And Bhakta so-and-so did something. And now he's a guru, and I should give him respect. Of course, we shouldn't have that mentality. The devotee should be forgiving. Prabhupada also stressed that. For yourself, don't take any. But for other devotees, if another devotee is being offended, or if the deity or your guru is being, then you have to become like fire. Not that sit back and say, okay, you said something bad about it. No. How dare you? You should stand up. But for ourselves, but the natural tendency in Kali Yuga is anything, you even look at me in a way that I don't like and I'm ready to fight. Why are you looking at me like that? Who do you think you are? But if you offend somebody else, the temple president, my guru, okay, whatever. No, not like that. So it's a training ground. Prabhupada has given us everything we need. He's trained us completely, perfectly, recorded the training, not just orally. He's recorded it in his books and his lectures. And so we have everything we need. So we have no excuse not to be on this platform that Kapila Dev is stressing. To know the Vedas, first of all, and then to be able to preach it strongly so that you can convince others, remove their doubt, and then ultimately come to the platform of being a Vaishnava so you can engage in devotional service. We can engage in devotional service without any expectation of getting some higher situation. So we can stop here. Any discussion, questions, comments? Mother Jayashree's hand was up.
Sorry for the delay there. One time when we were brahmacharinis in Hawaii, there was a letter from Srila Prabhupada. And I was going to say this, someone else had given a class, but I didn't have a chance to. And the letter, Prabhupada was talking about two devotees that left the movement. One was the temple president, one was the head pujari. And he said they think that they left on their own accord. But one was offensive to the women, one was offensive to the children, and Krishna took their desire to continue in devotional service away. Yeah. And I thought that was, what could be more of a punishment? Okay, you hurt yourself, you fall down the stairs, terrible. But to have to leave devotional service altogether, what could be more of a chastisement from Krishna?
Yeah, therefore one has to be very careful. Deity aparad, Guru aparad, Vaishnava aparad in general, Seva aparad, Dhamma aparad. There's so many aparads that we have to be careful of. And of course we recite the 10 offenses against the holy name every day. That's the chief one because our Savior is the holy name. If we offend the holy name, and we've seen personally, those of us who've been around for a long time, that when the japa starts to go south, then taste for everything else also goes south. And then you voluntarily leave because you've lost taste. So many times we've seen somebody, they become too busy to chant nicely. They're managing while they're chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hey, why are you doing that? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Stop, come here. They're managing while they're chanting. That doesn't work. That's offensive. You should find time to chant your rounds nicely. Whatever it takes. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Harinam Chintamani. If you have to lock yourself in a dark room and completely avoid everybody, do that. That's whatever it takes to chant nice japa, that's what you should do. Yes, bring a party Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. So Prabhupada would quote frequently that aphorism from the Vedanta Sutra, Anandamayo Bhi Asat, which means the living entity is always hankering after pleasure. That's the nature of the living entity, right? And here, we're hearing in this translation, I guess a purport, both perhaps, how the pure devotee doesn't desire anything. He doesn't desire anything better. It sounds like a contradiction to me. Because on the one hand we're hearing the nature of the living entities is always desiring happiness, but now it's hearing pure devotee is not desiring anything. So,
what's missing from your presentation is that the nature of the living entity is to be happy, because our natural situation, our normal situation is to be in devotional service to Krishna, which gives pleasure. And that's why we hanker after pleasure here, because we're missing our normal condition. Our normal condition is one of happiness, like Krishna says in the 9th chapter. It's joyfully performed, this process that we're on. And our natural situation is to be joyful. And that's why we feel incomplete here in this material world, because we're not tasting the natural happiness that we had previously in the spiritual world. So it's not that you're in the spiritual world, people are unhappy and then they seek after happiness and then they're happy. There's no unhappiness there. Vaikunta, no anxiety, no unhappiness. Everybody's happy at every moment, ever increasingly so. But when we come to this realm, that's gone. And therefore we feel a lack. And even if you have money, you're still not happy. We see the most miserable person on this planet right now is that guy who's pushing this war and won't stop killing his neighbors. Even though he's supposedly, they say he has even more money than, the person who's claimed to be the richest in the world. Because nobody knows exactly how much money he has. They say at least $200 billion is worth, maybe 5 times that. But still so unhappy. Because he's thinking that he will only be happy if he can conquer and expand his realm of influence. But even that, even if he did, even if he was to take over all of Europe somehow, he would not be happy. And that's pointed out by Brahmana Dev in the pastime with Bali Maharaj. He said, any Brahmana who will not be satisfied with 3 steps of land would not be satisfied if you give him the whole universe. And we see that with Hiranyakashipu. He conquered the whole universe, and he still wasn't happy. Therefore, when the Sringadev offered Prahlad a benediction, wherever you want, he said, no, don't tempt me. I'm born in a demoniac family. I've seen that my demoniac father conquered the whole universe, and his life was gone like that by you. He wasn't happy, and in an instant you killed him. Tabakara kamalavare nakam mukta-saṅgaḥ. Dalita Hiranyakashipu tana bringam. Bringa means insect, and specifically the wasp-like insect. You see they have a big section, then there's a little tiny section connecting to the next big section. So to break that little tiny section, any kid can do with their fingernail. Boom. So it's like that. Lord Nisrigadev killed Hiranyakashipu. So Prahlad said, I don't want anything, because it's practical. I can see practically that somebody who had everything was not happy, and you destroyed him in an instant. So why should I strive for anything? So that's the devotee situation. It's out of knowledge. It's out of practical experience. Why should I strive for anything in this world? I'm not going to be happy anyway. So let me get my happiness by pure devotional service.
Okay, so it's referring, because you just said in this world, so it's referring to he doesn't want anything material.
Yes.
But because spiritually,
because spiritually everybody's happy. They don't have to hanker.
Spiritually, you have aspirations at the same time, right? I mean, in the spiritual world, they're desiring.
It's a party every moment, getting better and better and better. Okay, one more. Prem Sankirtan has been here for a while.
Hare Krishna. Pure devotee, great devotee, from Srimad Bhagavatam, they don't want it, not in a reward to get for their devotional service. So what about us ordinary devotees who try to be pure devotee? So what we wanted? Can you list some of those things?
Well, you have to be honest. So Prabhupada said, you come before the Lord and you tell him, he said right here from this Vyasan, you come before me, he says, sir, and we all laugh because who calls God sir? But Prabhupada said, you come before the deities, you say, sir, this is my problem. So we have to be honest. If I have some problem, something's bothering me, I want to go to India and I don't have enough money, or whatever my problem is, you reveal to the deity. He already knows. Krishna knows everything. But it's a way of connecting. You come before him and you say, my dear Lord, this is my problem. I'm having a relationship problem or a money problem or whatever the problem is. You tell him. And pray and wait. He may inspire you to solve that particular problem, or he may not. Because ultimately it's not a problem. We're just seeing it as a problem. And therefore we think we have this need, that need, I want this, I want that. But ultimately the soul is ātmanaḥ, self-satisfied. Because we're part of the supreme ātmanaḥ. Some Krishna is supremely self-satisfied, and the individual parts and parcels are also self-satisfied. But due to ignorance, we're thinking that I'm not satisfied because of this or that. If I move here or move there. I've told this so many times when I was with Rohini Arcita Prabhu one day, we were having lunch and so many disciples were coming and they wanted to, Guru Maharaj, can you give me permission to leave this temple and go to that temple? So when they left, he said, they don't understand. Wherever they go, the mind goes with them. So the problems will still be there. You're not going to solve your problem by moving from this place to that place or moving from this job to that job or whatever. The problem is really here. The mind needs to be controlled and needs to be subdued, and then you will realize I don't have any problems. Jai, Grantha Rashmi Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Prince.